Today we are joined by Dennis McGinnis, our product support specialist, and Rick Dey, our business development manager. With that, I will turn it over to Dennis.
Thank you, Sharon. And thank you everyone for attending this webinar about our ISCO data services, which covers iSell and Flowlink Cipher. To start off with, I'd like to go over the iSell benefits. And with that, I also want to point out that currently iSell is only available in the United States. So what is iSell? iSell is our cellular service offering for our Teledyne products. What it brings to the table is competitive pricing. By allowing ISCO to handle your flow meter and sampler cellular services, we are able to give very competitive pricing to other cellular service providers out there. Additionally, we have a fully tested solution, which means what we can do is we can set up those SIM cards here at the office, at the factory, and there we can set them up for your accounts with your equipment when you purchase it, or if you already have existing equipment, we can test them with same type of equipment, which I'm going to cover later. But the fully tested solution allows us to make sure everything's working out of the box. The single source hardware and service allows you to get everything in one place. One order gets you not only your hardware, but gets you your services included with that. By having it tested and set up here at the factory before you receive it, that allows you to hit the ground running when you get to the field. You plug everything in, you turn it on, and you're already up and running for your cell services. And because iCell works with all of our equipment, you don't have to worry about compatibility issues as far as what type of services on your cell plan is needed for your equipment. We cover all that for you. By being under our umbrella here at the factory, it allows us to do complete troubleshooting as well. In the past, we could only troubleshoot up to the hardware, and then it became a service issue. We had to get those other service providers like AT&T or Verizon involved. Now, because we are your source of that service, we actually have access to the account to see what's available and if there's any failures on the cell side of it versus the equipment side. If there's any question the thing is not working, your equipment's not working, or the service isn't working, again, because we have access to that, we can verify that the service is active. And then on top of that, we have a very good working knowledge of the equipment, which allows us to determine where the problem actually lies. So in the first year, what we do for the cell service is all we're really going to supply you is a 1-year contract for your service on a SIM card. If it's a new purchase, we're going to go ahead and take that SIM card and put it into your hardware. A new purchase meaning you have a new hardware purchase. So if you're buying a new signature or a new DuraTracker, we're actually going to take that SIM card and put it in your DuraTracker, in your signature that it's going to be shipped out with. We're going to set everything up and make sure it's working. That way, when you get it and you open it out of the box, it's running. If you have existing ISCO modems, you can buy just the SIM card as well. You don't have to buy iCell with every purchase of new equipment. If you already have equipment, you can buy iCell for your existing equipment. Now, if you do have existing equipment, there are a few things we're going to need. We are going to need the serial number of that existing equipment and the IMEI number, because we'll have to marry that SIM card to that IMEI number, which is part of your hardware. And that way, when you receive it, you put the SIM card in and you're up and running. Once the order is placed, though, you got the serial number and the IMEI to us, we're not only going to establish the service, but we're going to find similar equipment that it's going into. So by you telling us what serial number that modem goes to, we're going to know what type of equipment it's going to be in when it gets into the field. So we're going to take that same type of modem and set it up and test it here at the factory, again, to make sure everything's working when you receive it. So what does iCell provide you as far as the service allowance? We're going to supply you with 10 megs of data a month and 25 text messages. Now, those 25 text messages are used for alarming or response to IP address requests that the DuraTracker and the 6712 modem supports. So if you're unfamiliar with that, the DuraTracker and 6712 modem allows someone to send a text to it, to have those two pieces of equipment send a text back to that user to give them their IP address, and leaves the modem on for 20 minutes to allow for an incoming connection from Flowlink. So when you do that, those text messages, when it comes back and tells you its status and its IP address, that is going to be included as part of one of those 25 text messages. I also want to point out that we have a rental option. So with the rental option, it allows someone who already has ISCO equipment and they don't necessarily want it on year round. So they're not signing a year contract with their current service provider. Instead, you can do a month-to-month contract through us. This allows someone who doesn't need the modem year round and they only need it for seasonal type of jobs, they can go ahead and rent it for the months that is needed, and then cancel that subscription and put the equipment on the shelf when it's not used. So that's what we got for iSell. The next section of our data services plan is Flowlink Cipher. Now, Flowlink Cipher is our new cloud-based analytic software for your Flow devices. So the benefits, to cover quickly on the benefits of Flowlink Cipher, the first one is no hardware ownership. In other words, we don't need to buy the servers any longer to have, for you to put in your location. What this allows is the service or the hardware is actually in the cloud, and you're able to access that large hardware in the cloud without having to purchase it yourself and put it in your property. Because there's no server for you to maintain, there's no server maintenance. There's no software installations and no database management. All that's done for you in the cloud. That's what we will do for you, so you don't have your IT guys having to do that. No hacking risk. Because the server's not on your property, there's not a problem of someone getting into that server and gaining access to other parts of your network. We have built-in data security. We have the firewall out there on the cloud. We also have automatic data backups, and we have server redundancy, all included with that package. So these are things that you would have had it done in the past with Flowlink Pro with your own server that now is taken off your hands because we do all that for you. Additionally, because we have these large servers in the cloud, you have a lot more power to do your data analysis and allow more sockets to come in of information. Because it's all in the cloud, it's not within your service or within your server of having to be constrained by the server size that you have there. With these servers in the cloud, they're able to ramp up or come down depending on the load or the request of information being asked from them. Some of the tools that are included with Cipher is we have the dashboard and map views. This is a quick glance type of options you have to see your data quickly in one place at one time. It allows for quick analysis because we have the custom build templates. Have those tools built into the server level. So again, taken away from having your server having to be powerful enough to do all these things, we can open up a lot more tools that Cipher has available to us because we have a lot more processing power in the cloud. We have programmable alarms. Instead of the alarms having to be set for the meters in the field in the past or in the old days, you can still use those if you want to have those alarms set in the meter, but that's no longer required. We can actually have the server monitor those alarms coming in. Because again, we have these very powerful servers, they have the ability to monitor every single data point as it's being pushed in and alarm off of those data points as certain thresholds are met. Because it's on the cloud and there's no software involved as far as installation on your computer, we simply use a browser. Because we're using a browser, you can access your information anywhere as long as you have a device that can get on the internet. Tablet, cell phone, laptop, desktop. By using a web browser, you can log in and get to your data. No software installed. Automatic updates. In the past, anytime you had to do a software update, you had to uninstall, you had to download the new installs files, and then reinstall them. A lot of times that included getting IT involved. Because all this is on the cloud, and again, no software is installed because you're just using a browser, none of that is needed any longer. All updates are done in the cloud. So one day you just log in and you've got all your bug fixes and all your new features that come with your Cipher subscription. All that's included automatically. So with all that being said, we're going to take a break real quick and we're going to flip over. I'm going to show you a quick demonstration on those exact same tools that we discussed just now and how they're used in Cipher. So to start off with, I want to mention that unlike iSell, which is only available in the United States, Flowlink Cipher is available worldwide. So no matter where you are in the world, you have access to purchase Flowlink Cipher for your meters and to get your data remotely. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start with demonstrating the dashboard. You'll notice the dashboard is empty because I wanted to show you how quickly you can populate your dashboard with a simple clicks of a mouse button. So in the upper left-hand corner, we have a plus button that shows all the different types of gadgets or tools that we have available to you. By simply opening a few site gadgets, I'll just open up 4, I can quickly populate my dashboard by just selecting which sites I want to be shown on my dashboard. So right there, boom, I've already got 4 sites. Now this site is empty on purpose, and I'll explain that in a second. But what I wanted to get point here is that these site gadgets allow me to get data quickly on my dashboard for any sites that I have in my database. So here you can see I have Apple Tree. It has a level. They're all hard-coded to level, velocity, and flow rate. Currently, I have a level and a velocity. You'll notice in this dropdown, you can choose which sensor you want to have displayed. I had the 350 sensor displayed there, so it's showing my submerged probe. But here I can go ahead and make sure all of them are using my laser. So I got my laser level, my velocity, and my flow rate being displayed. In the lower left-hand corner, I have a quick timestamp to show the last time this site pushed in. This pushed in 2 minutes ago. And on the last recorded voltage that was pushed in, what that reading is. So this one has a battery voltage of 12.9 volts. Same thing goes across the board. Now you'll notice this red hue around Apple Tree and Buck Road. That means that they are in alarm. And so you have these little alarm icons in the lower right corner that tells me how many alarms are in place. In this case, I've got 2 alarms here. By clicking on this, I have an option to go to those alarms and see what they are. I also have the option to acknowledge those alarms and clear them. But that's what the red hue is. So as I'm looking through all my sites, anything with a red hue kind of throws up a red flag that, hey, this thing is an alarm condition. If you want to see what that alarm condition is, you can simply jump over to them and see what those alarm conditions are. And if you want to clear them, you can clear them from there as well. Now, the yellow hue that Capitol Parkway has, and I have no data, is because this site is not pushed in 1 month, 3 weeks, and 4 days. The reason I keep this on here is I want to point out that when a site does not push in within its specified amount of time, which by default is 1 day, it will go yellow with a yellow hue and will warn you that this site is not pushing in. Perhaps you didn't pay your cell phone bill. If you had iSell, you wouldn't have that problem because you would have paid for the whole year in advance, and we would give you some reminders when your iSell bill is due. But if you don't have iSell and you missed your payment on your service provider, that might be a reason why it's down. Or maybe you have someone vandalized your site, or maybe someone parked a car over your antenna. Whatever the case is, this is letting you know that the site did not push in and that needs to be investigated. And that's why there's no data here, because I haven't had any site data pushed in for over a month. Here's a site here where it's not an alarm or in a silent alarm condition where it went silent on us. So you can see there is no hue around that. Again, just want to point out that there is a level, velocity, flow rate that is hard-coded to site gadgets, but it is a quick way of getting your data on your screen fast. In the upper right-hand corner, there are some extra tools you have as far as how often you want this to refresh. You can change the amount of time that's displayed. You can actually go to the site and see more information about it. You can actually create a graph. So there's quite a few little shortcuts up here with the 3 dots. But let's say I have a situation where I want some data that doesn't necessarily pertain to just the level, velocity, and flow rate. Well, that allows me to use the graph gadget. Now, the graph gadget is basically using any graphs that you have pre-made down in the analysis screen, which we're going to show later. But any graphs that we have made created in the analysis screen are then going to be listed in my dropdown. So as an example, I can jump over to my analysis screen, and here's all the graphs that I have made. I have a scatter plot here. So let's say I want to use this one. If I go to dashboard and I find that in my list, and now I have my scatter plot on my dashboard. I can do that with any graph that I have created in my analysis tab. Anything I have in there, I can click here and it will pull that graph in. And you notice here, I've just got level and flow rate. I don't even have the velocity in here, where the site gadget makes me have the level, velocity, flow rate. The graph gadget can be anything. Anything that you're recording into Cipher, whether it's data right from a meter or something you've imported in, anything that's in Cipher, we can graph on, and therefore we can make a graph gadget and have that displayed on your dashboard. Again, the purpose of the dashboard is to allow you to customize these gadgets to see exactly what sites you want in any arrangement that you want in one screen. So with that, I can also move these gadgets around. I can resize them, make them bigger or smaller. I can, if I move them off over to the right, you'll see that it actually resizes them to make sure they all fit horizontally. If you want to move these around at any time, you can. And the nice thing about the dashboard is it is tied to the user account. This is not affecting any other users that log in. It is simply just for this particular user, or you, for the user that's logging in. This is your dashboard that you can make any way you want. Some additional gadgets we have is we have the battery gadget. This allows me to see all my sites in one place and what their voltages are. I can arrange those from high to low, so I can see which sites need batteries sooner than others. NA, typically not applicable, just means it's probably AC powered, and so they're not recording voltages, and so therefore that's not going to show up there. If I didn't want that included, if I didn't want my AC powered sites included, I could simply uncheck them, and then they just won't be in the list. The alarm gadget allows me to have all my alarms in one place. Before, I was talking about how each one of these site gadgets had this red hue around them. Well, imagine if I have 30 or 40 sites, I have to look through all these site gadgets to look for the red ones. No longer. With the alarm gadget, I can see all the sites in one place, which are an alarm. So here I can see my apple tree's an alarm and my Buck Road's an alarm. I also have a couple other sites that are an alarm that are not on my dashboard, but they are listed here. From this gadget also allows me to resolve or acknowledge the site alarms. So the first thing you'll notice is we have two different icons here, the bell and the green bell. The bell that's going off, the first thing you can do is you can say, I'm going to acknowledge this alarm. By hitting OK, it will send that to a green icon. Once it's in green, it basically means someone's looking into it. This allows you to have communication. Anybody else who has the alarm gadget on their dashboards would see this went green, meaning someone is looking into this alarm state. Once it's been processed and it's good to go and they want to clear it, if you click on the green alarm, you'll have an option to resolve it. Hit OK on that, we'll resolve it, and it will take it from the list, and the red hue will disappear. Now, this is my demo database, so I'm keeping these things on alarm, as well as these sites not pushing in, so I have something to demonstrate. That's the only reason I'm not clearing them. But in this example here, you can see that it's simple clicks to go ahead and acknowledge and resolve these alarms. The silent alarm, which is much like this alarm gadget, the silent alarm is the same idea. It's just for the yellow hued sites that have not pushed in. By selecting to monitor all sites, any site that has not pushed in is an alarm here. So here's my Capitol Parkway. As you can see, it's an alarm condition. Now, if I've already addressed the issue, I went out there, I found out the batteries died, and that's why it wasn't pushing in. I trade out the batteries, it starts pushing its data. I still have to come in here and say, yep, I acknowledge the alarm, which will turn it green, and I swapped out the batteries, so now it's working. I can click on it again to resolve it, and it will go away, and the yellow hue will go away. So it's a really easy way of maintaining your sites in one screen. Not only can I see the raw data here, but I can check on their alarm conditions in another gadget, and if they have not pushed in on yet another gadget. Finally, we have our notepad. The notepad allows you to put any type of notes in here that you want, like bring a shovel, bring extra batteries for this site, I did a calibration, really whatever you want to have in there is available to you in the notepad. Okay, finally, I want to show the fact that while each dashboard is user specific to that user, nobody else is being affected by anything that you're doing here. But there could be a time where you might want to share a dashboard. Let's say you create a dashboard and you want to get a head start for everybody else. And so not everybody has to make their own dashboards. You can actually share your dashboard. And by doing that, by using the dashboard configuration, I can go ahead and say, I want to share this. By sharing it, it becomes available in the shared list. On the flip side, if I want to make a copy of someone's shared, I'm going to unshare my home here. I have other sites here named home that are shared, but I have a demonstration dashboard here as an example. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to say, I want to copy this shared dashboard that someone made. I'm going to copy that to my dashboard. It does give me an option to change the name if I want, but if I hit save, I can jump over to it. And now I've got their dashboard on my screen. I want to put on their notepad here, they actually have some hyperlinks. So what a hyperlink does on the notepads, it allows you to put in different websites. So here, before leaving out for the site, check to make sure you have batteries, make sure you have your laptop, check the weather. If you click on this, it actually jumps you over to the weather. Here's our weather in beautiful Nebraska. And you can do that with anything. We also have our software updates. So there's another example. You can have a link to our current software updates so you can make sure you have the most recent software or firmware inside your meters before you go out there. You can load those up onto a USB or on your laptop to make sure you have them with you. So there's some examples, but any website you think might be helpful, you can throw in there as a hyperlink into your notepad as well. You'll notice that it just adds your dashboards across the top. So you could have any number of dashboards. Within those dashboards, you could have site gadgets that just show sites for a particular project or particular customer. So there's no limit on how you want to filter out your dashboards. Maybe you've got a certain group that only wants to see these sites. You can have a dashboard with just those sites. And of course, any dashboard you make is shareable so other people can make a copy. Now, with that being said, I also want to point out that if you make a copy of a dashboard and you start changing that dashboard, you're not affecting the original. Only the person who is sharing the original is the one affecting it. So you are basically making just a copy of it, in which case you can adjust and change that and not have any effect on the original. So I spent a lot of time on the dashboard because I think it's a really key factor that we did not have in Flowlink. And I think it's really the board to start off with to go ahead and get you started on your day, to see your sites, see what's an alarm, see what batteries need to be taken care of, everything in one place very quickly.
Yes, I do agree with that. I'm going to interject here.
Absolutely.
Because absolutely the dashboard is a very easy way to do a quick view of what's going on at the sites. Different levels of people can look at it, and do they need to? Maybe it's field crews, they just want to look at battery voltage. Maybe it's we got a flat line, somebody needs to go clean it, whatever. So the dashboard is very, very huge. I'm going to mute myself now, but anyway.
Thank you for your input, Rick.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so the next screen we're going to cover is the map. So the map actually will set up and show you everything that you have set in for your meters as far as their longitude, latitude. It tells it where it's located and what alarm condition it's in. Anything in green means everything's good to go. In red means there's an alarm condition, and yellow means it's the silent site. So it's the same color coordination that we have with the dashboard. It's just brought over here to the map. If you do click on a site, it does zoom in on that site and gives you, again, the last time it pushed in. Now this time, instead of by the number of days and months that it didn't push in, now it's giving you a timestamp. Same information, just displayed differently. Does give the last battery voltage that it was sent in, and then it shows the longitude, latitude information that's putting it on the map here. Other than that, we've got some shortcuts for graphing. At the bottom here, it will show you any sites that do not have coordinates. It's a quick way of making sure all your sites have coordinates built into them. So that's what that little pop-up is. Allows you a chance to get in there and set those coordinates in to make sure that meter shows up on your map. The site screen, briefly, this just shows all the sites that are being pushed in. Again, it has the last time it pushed with a time date stamp, as well as the battery voltage to the right there. If it's an alarm, what alarms they are, you can click on here, just like we showed you on the dashboard. You can jump to that alarm screen and see what the alarms are themselves. So some shortcuts. The drop-down has some more shortcuts for making graphs. Up here on the toolbar here, I've also got a couple tools. This one is one I want to key in on. This allows you, this icon here allows you to bring third-party or data from a CSV file from maybe a previous project. It allows you to drag and drop into here, and that uploads into Cipher more data. Possibly it's rain gauge data or weather station data, whatever you have available in a CSV format, which you can get. We can help you get that data. If you want, you could also export some data out from Flowlink Cipher to give you a header file for that CSV. And so by doing that, that gives you a starting point. So the export function is a quick way of getting a good starting point for your CSV file, which then you can upload with this icon here. By going into the site screen here actually gives you a lot of information about that site in particular. So up in the upper left-hand corner, again, I've got a little map that shows me where it's located. If I want to jump to the map screen, I can click on this and it will jump over to the map screen and expand it. You'll also notice I have some site pictures here. I can click on these. I can also attach them. It kind of gives me an idea of what's in the site. You could have any photos you want in here. Also, you can see we can also have anything from calibration sheets, certificates, whatever you see fit, you can throw in here by just using the plus button to make attachments in for each one of your sites. Over in the center of the screen, we have the ability to use the edit here, and we can actually put in an address or a manhole number. This is also the location where we put in our longitude, latitude. This is how the map knows where it's located. So whatever longitude, latitude you can get that easily from Google Maps just by right-clicking on it. On Google Maps, it'll give you the longitude, latitude on that location, and you just paste them into here. So a lot of information located about site-specific data right on this screen. If there's a call-in window that you have available to call that site, that'll be pushed to this screen as well. So you know these are the hours of day I can go over to Flowlink and call those sites if I wanted to. So all that's located in one spot. There's a comment section also I want to point out down at the bottom. You can put any type of comments you want. The events, this is where all your alarms are held, but this is also if it did not push in or if you have a programming change, you can see you can filter any one of these by clicking on what you want and hitting. Now, I don't have any program changes on this Buck Road, but I did see some data. Those are threshold alarms. So here I've got some alarms here. I have some low flow alarms. So you can filter out any type of data. It doesn't have to be alarms. Like I said, it could be program or history changes or sample events. Any of that type of information that's being pushed in here can be seen under the events screen. The devices tab simply shows you which device is out there. For a signature Endura tracker, their serial number and software revision are pushed in with that as well. So I can see what the serial number is from the site. Also, whatever data sets are set up for being programmed in the meter to go ahead and be pushed in, they're all listed here as well. All that's under the device tab. The log screen just basically sends logs as far as when the site pushed in, what type of data is being pushed in, but it's there available to you if you need it. Finally, on this screen, this is the default 1 day that I was talking about for failure to push, where it goes yellow. This is where you can set that. In the site screen, if you hit this little guy here, you can change how often you want it to alarm off of if it doesn't push in. So if I wanted to set it for, if it doesn't push in 4 hours, I want a silent alarm instead of once a day. You can choose what you want in that location there. I want to get that back to 1 day, actually. There we go. All right, so that is the site screen. Next on the alarms, this is a place unlike where the site screen where you had the events and it just had the stuff for just Buck Road in that example, here I have all the alarms for every site located in one place. I have 10,000 alarms in this particular database. I can view them 50 at a time, although I can also go ahead and filter based upon the site name if I wanted. So I just have that site listed, or the type of event. If I want just data alarms showing up, you can filter all those through here. This is also the settings is where I can go ahead and set up and program different types of alarms for different types of sites. So in this case, I want an alarm if apple tree's level is greater than 6 inches, as an example. And then if I save that, I will get, and I have to give it a name, apple tree alarm. If I save that, then anytime apple tree comes in with greater than 6 inches, I can get an alarm based on that. The analysis screen, these are all the graphs and tables you've created. They're all held in one location for you. Again, anything created here can be attached to a graph gadget under the dashboard, but this is where you go ahead and make those. If you want to make a graph by hand, you can simply use the plus button here and create the graph from scratch. If it's a graph that's already created and you just want to open it, you just click on it, it opens it right up. Within the graph screen itself, we have a number of tools to work with. I can turn on my table. I can get rid of my graph. I can turn on my graph. I can get rid of the time frame in the middle if I want. So I have a couple toggles here or buttons that I can click on to toggle in and out different pieces of information. If I want to select certain amounts of data, I can select which data set I want to work on. Here I'm going to work on the 360 velocity. By selecting that in my selection, anytime I highlight, it's only going to highlight whatever I have selected at the top. From here, I can do editing. So there is a number of tools you've got in the analysis screen to help you analyze your data. Additionally, if I want to export any of this data out, I can export it via CSV here, or I can use a PDF output where I can actually include the graph and the table if I want. I just simply tell it if I want to include the data table or if I just want the graph on the list. Additionally, if you are looking to just export particular amounts of data, this is a quick place to make a graph with just that data you want and hit the export here versus going to the alarm screen and using the site screen and using the mass export option that I showed earlier, where you can select any number of sites. So there's just a couple different ways of getting data exported out. But I like the graph one because you can just pick the things you want quick by making a graph and just hitting the export there. Also, as you can see, if I already have a graph set up to show last month, then I just open this up and it always shows last month and I export it out. So lots of tools in the analysis screen to work with. Reports. This is a quick way of me creating a number of reports that I need for various sites. Any reports that are made, it shows you who made them. And if I chose to have PDF or CSVs available for those reports. Also, by making those reports, I can create templates. With templates, it's not site specific. I just simply say, I want a monthly totals, or here I got daily flows. You can make a template and just simply insert any site you want from that site, from the site drop-down list, and it fills in the rest. There's my total flows, and I hit next, next, next. The rest is all filled in for me because it's a template. Then I can preview it and download it. So reports is a quick way of getting your reports ready for you. Templates, if it's a site specific, templates allows you to basically put in any site you want within a certain range of data formats that you desire, and then that's the way you can get your reports out that way. Now, the scheduler, which is the final screen here, it works in tandem with the template screen. Anything in scheduler or any templates you've made under scheduler, I can actually attach any site to that template. So I want apple tree and I want to use that monthly totals. So then I can give it a name, monthly report for my description. So here's my apple tree monthly totals. Who do I want to send it to? In the dropdown, I'll have a list of everybody that's in that Cipher database. Also, if I want to put in someone's email by hand, maybe Jimmy down the hall needs this report as well, but he's not part of Cipher. You could just hand type his email here. And you can say what I want included, PDF and a CSV file in that email. And here I can say, okay, I want the email sent at the first of every month at 8 o'clock in the morning. By creating that schedule, now anybody in the email list is going to get this report on the first of every month, last month's totals, sitting in their email, waiting for them. They don't have to open up Cipher. They can just open their Outlook or their email and then open it up, and they'll have their PDF and or CSV, depending on what you're sending them, in their inbox. If they see a discrepancy in the data and they want to go look at it, then they can simply jump over here to analysis, go to that site, open up the data, find that date range, and investigate why that report is showing that event. Okay, that is about the time I have set aside to show some of the key functions of Cipher. Again, this isn't an in-depth discussion of all the tools that Cipher can do. That would take quite a bit longer, but I did want to kind of key in on some of the top things that Cipher brings to the table. I think the dashboard's a big one of those. Reports are a big one that we've got from people that are using this as their report generator every month. And of course, the data analysis is key, so you can see what's going on with each site. Okay, so now I'm going to take a quick moment to cover the API, which is the application programming interface that we have integrated into Cipher. What this does is this allows you to interface with the cloud server of your data and bring that data down through an API to your database. This is great if you have a third-party application that you would like to get that data into as well, and it's automated. So what we can do is we can provide you with the code that allows you to create an API that has to match up with whatever your database needs. So we can't do all the work, but we can give you the code that allows you to interface with the cloud to then allow you to create this backside of the code to interface with the database that you want that data to go into. This just takes away the manual function of you having to export data out like it's a CSV and import it back in. This is an automated way to have that done automatically for you. Now, currently, we only have what's called publishing the data. So what publishing means is we can pull the data out of the API and bring it into the database. We are working on the call support. So what the call support is the other direction, where we'll be able to take data out of other databases and bring that into Cipher on an automated basis. Again, there's no manual uploading data. This would be a connection to that database, and it basically pulls the data out of there and brings it right into Cipher. Basically, API allows for a bridge between databases. It allows the sharing of data to be in more than just one spot. It's not to say you don't necessarily want to use Cipher, but you want to use that same data someplace else as well. Or possibly you just are so used to that third-party development tool that you've been using for years, and you want to have Cipher as the bridge to bring the data in, and you want to get that over to your database, you can do that. Like I said, we're developing the call option, which is going to bring data into Cipher, and that'll allow us to go both directions. All right, to finish up our webinar, I'm going to go ahead and bring up the products, our Teledyne products that work with the two data services I just discussed, iSell and Flowlink Cipher. So to start off with, the DuraTracker, our signature flow meter, the 2100 series, and the 6712 series samplers, because they have flow modules and sample data in there, all of these are iSell compatible. Because they have modems, iSell has the ability to set up a cell service for you for any project that has this cell service on that project. So if you have one of these devices and you need cell service, iSell is definitely compatible and ready for you to go with. Now, to break this down a little bit further, let's talk about Cipher support. So of our current offerings, we have the signature DuraTracker and 2100. They can all directly push their data to Cipher. With the 6712, it does not have a direct push option. Its modem is not compatible to push. So in that case, you can still call it with Flowlink and import the data via Flowlink or CSV up to Cipher. So again, to break that down, our signature, DuraTracker, and 2100s, there is no user interface in between. They all simply sit out in the field and they push their data straight up to the cloud. With the 6712, while it is Cipher supported, the modem does not allow to push in directly. So in that case, you would need to use Flowlink to download the data. And from there, in the Flowlink archive transfer screen, you can push that date or that data within the date range you want up to Cipher manually that way. But you also have the option to import data via a CSV file. Another option we hear, like the 6712 sampler, because it doesn't automatically push up, if you have that data into a CSV file, you can upload that with the icon I pointed out earlier in Cipher. By using the icon, you can just drag and drop the CSV file from the 6712 700 module into that location, and that will upload it to Cipher as well. And finally, third-party data. With third-party data, as long as it's formatted to the CSV format that Cipher can read, you can manually upload that to Cipher as well. Again, the best way to do that would be export a little bit of data out of Cipher or Flowlink to get that header file, and just copy and paste your third-party data into there, and then you just upload it to Cipher, and then it becomes its own site in Cipher. Another way to get third-party data in, if you didn't want to do the CSV option, let's say you wanted live data to come in. I don't want to have to download the data and turn it into a CSV file and upload it. If I have a signature with an analog card input, a 307, I can go ahead and tie a 4 to 20 output from said third-party device directly into the signature. The signature can record that data and it can push it up to Cipher for you. Another option is the DuraTracker and signature both support Modbus inputs. If you use the Modbus input on either the DuraTracker or the signature, it also records it internally, and it can also then push it up to Flowlink Cipher. So this is a more of an automated way without having to use CSV files or getting involved with the computer and you're manually uploading things. Here, by having that data directly come into our meters, we can go ahead and record that for you and push it up to Cipher. Okay, with that concludes my my presentation of our data services, which includes the iSell and Flowlink Cipher product line, as well as all of our hardware as far as our flow meters and samplers go and how they interface with both the iSell and the Flowlink Cipher. To end the webinar, I'm going to pass this over to Rick Dey, who wants to discuss a little bit of our flow meter technology with you. So take it away, Rick.
Well, thank you very much, Dennis, for that enlightening presentation on Flowlink Cipher and iSell. We think we have some very, exciting stuff going forward with moving data, which is really what it's all about. What I'm going to talk about real quick is just kind of some of the flow meter offerings that we have. And you'll see the one on the top left is the DuraTracker, which is our newest one. That will have the capability of having multiple sensors plugged into it, like a 2150 did, but it will be one unit. So very, very capable, Bluetooth compatible. But the other thing that we found is that the electronics on the area velocity sensor is far better than what we had thought would be. So great stuff there. In the middle, we have the signature with now the laser EX, laser or non-EX, and obviously the one on the right is the beloved 2150 that we all know about. So real quick, what is our flow? I'm just going to kind of go through a presentation on this. Q is our flow, is our equal to the area. We typically use level. You can use level pressure, or you can use ultrasonic. D is a velocity, which would be Doppler. In the case of what we're looking at right there, that would be a contact or non-contact. And so I'm just going to kind of show you what these look like. So this would be the 350EX sensor. What we found is that we were getting a lot better signal strength, signal to noise ratio on the new design with the DuraTrackers. So, but we read level using pressure. We use, again, the continuous wave Doppler to read the velocity. So how does the laser work? Real quick, we use a ultrasonic. We know where the water is. Once we know where the water is, we measure the speed of the water using a laser. So what we do is we focus that laser. We take 5,000 readings in about 2 seconds. So amazing what that laser is able to do. So depending on your application, depending on you know, how low the flow is or what your conditions are, or getting into the pipe and things like that, it really will depend on what you want to do with that. And with that, thanks again, Dennis did a great job. Dennis did most of the presentation, so appreciate that. And feel free to, again, Twitter us or Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Contact us anytime we can help you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dennis and Rick, for sharing your expertise. And as Rick mentioned, we are now opening this up for questions. Please use the Q&A function within Zoom, and we would be happy to answer. Thank you.
Okay, so we do have a few questions coming in here. I think Rick and I will just kind of go back and forth on these. I'll take the first one. Matt early on asked if we can push ISCO other devices other than ISCO into Cipher. He asked the question before I got to it in the presentation, but yes, if you need that directly pushed up, we have a couple interfaces for the DuraTracker and the signature that you can bring data in via 420 or via Modbus. Again, that's a way of getting that information into our devices and directly up into Cipher. We also do have some other questions coming into the chat group as well. Rick, did you want to take the next one or want me to go?
Yeah, there's another one that I saw earlier. Do I need to pay for individual licenses? And the answer is no. You pay for the subscription on how many sites you have, but you can allow whoever you want to access that without paying additional licenses for that.
Okay, another one. Let's see. If we need to add new people, do we have to contact you? The answer to that is no. Actually, when you get your own Cipher account and you're the sysadmin of that account, you actually have the ability yourself to go to the user screen and add people as you see fit. And you can even set up their roles as far as what their abilities are with that account. So that's actually all controlled by the end user. You can choose who or when you want to take people off the accessibility of Cipher. You just do that on your own. There's no reason to contact us here at the factory to do that for you. Let's see here.
There's some good questions on the alarming output on like INI and stuff. I'm not sure I know the answer.
Yeah. So here on the analysis screen, can I create an INI graph and it gets updated? So that what they're asking there is, if I go in and I set up, we can do some we can set up some graphs based upon the data. And the question is, if I do some math on that and I figure out the INI, I take the dry weather and subtract the wet weather, which again, I didn't get that into all of that in this presentation. It can literally take hours to cover everything Flowlink Cipher can do. That was something I didn't cover in this presentation here just because of time constraints. But the question is, if I do an INI graph, which is done in one of the analysis screens, will it automatically update or do I have to keep going back and doing the math? And the answer to that is no. Once you've created that data set for the INI, you've taken the dry weather and you subtracted the flow rate, and whatever's left over is your wet weather. Do I have to keep redoing that to make the graph? And again, no, you don't. Once that is in Cipher's database, it knows how to do the math. It'll just do that on the fly. It'll constantly take new flow data coming into the system and keep subtracting that from that designated dry data you chose and create your INI information for you. And the second question to that is, can I create an alarm off that? As far as the alarms go, yes, anything that's actually recorded in the database, whether it's a mathematical representation of the INI where we took the dry and subtracted out took the dry out of the flow rate to come up with that, or the second question here, if I have a site marked as a SSO or a CSO site, can I create overflow alarms? Anything that we're recording data with, whether it's data that the meter's recording itself, or a third-party data coming in via the Modbus or the 4 to 20, as Matt asked about, anything being recorded in the system, we can alarm off of. So the answer is yes, we can alarm off of that information once it's created.
All right, we have another question on what is the most frequent transmission interval for the modem. The most frequent would be 5 minutes, but normally people will maybe send it every 4 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, just so they get data coming in. But we can downshift, if you will, if an event happens. We hit a high water threshold. Now we want an alarm coming to us. We also want the data being pushed every 5 minutes. And in the meters, we can actually take those data storage intervals, let's say 15 minutes, down to like a 1 minute interval. So now you're able to really do a lot of things and get high resolution data in a easy fashion. And really that's kind of the way you want to go. So that, I think, is the question there.
Well, there's a few on there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're going to go to the next one.
Go ahead.
So the next one is on that next one down is it possible to transmit data immediately if it crosses the threshold in the field? Yes. So as Rick mentioned, you can set up your primary frequency, which is, as he mentioned, the fastest that would be is 5 minutes to push. And then, but typically you could have something slower, like 15 minutes or something. In this case, could I make it transmit immediately? Yes. In our meters, whether it's the Signature, the DuraTrack, or 2100, you can set up what we call a server alarm. And what that does is you can set up an equation that says, when this threshold is met, go ahead and push the data immediately to the server. This way, if, as an example, if I'm on a 4-hour primary push, I don't have to wait 4 hours for Cipher to alarm off of that, because even though the alarms are set up in Cipher, it's still dependent on the information being pushed in for it to analyze that and to alarm off of it. So if that event has happened 3 hours ago and I finally get my push in at the 4th hour, then I've now waited a long time for that alarm to happen. If I set up that alarm condition in the meter, which is monitoring the data all the time, real time, the meter can wake up and push right away to Cipher, in which case Cipher now has the information to alarm off of. So it's kind of a handshake. You need the meter to tell it to push right away when this happens, so that Cipher can take that information and alarm off of it. The next one is a Modbus question. Is it possible to configure a DuraTracker slave address to several DuraTrackers in a single Modbus RTU network? So yeah, we use RS-485, which is a multi-drop Modbus system. So what that allows us to do is you can give individual ID addresses to each DuraTracker on the Modbus link. That allows you to have your master device to go out and pull multiple DuraTrackers. They'll of course all have to have their own individual ID. But yeah, if you have a Modbus drop on each one of those DuraTrackers, you can absolutely have those all on the same loop. Is it possible to use probes without modules, like the AV without the module? I guess the question there is, right now we don't have any self-contained AV sensors without some sort of module for it to hook up to and speak with. you always have to have a logger, whether it's ours or somebody else's. We have had some occasions where we've had some Modbus available AV sensors where they can talk to third-party sensor or third-party loggers, but we don't have any standalone sensors without any modules available. You have to have some sort of logging module regardless to capture that data. All right, so the next one, can I set privileges for different users depending on their role? So the roles themselves, actually, when you set up a user, there's 6 roles you can choose between: analysis, viewing, things like editing. And so when you set up your user account, kind of going off my earlier answer to, do I have to call in to have a user set up? The main system administrator of your account, not only can you choose people you want access to Cipher, you can choose from 6 different roles or abilities you want those user to have. Like, I don't want this person to be able to edit data, I just want him to view it. So those are all in the roles system, which actually can be found in the help screen of Flowlink Cipher that shows you a breakdown of what each role does. Can I do flow conversions inside of Flowlink Cipher? Yes, that kind of goes back to that INI question we were talking about earlier. Can I calculate INI? Yes, and again, I did not cover everything Flowlink Cipher can do. There's just so much that it can do. It takes a long time to cover everything, and it just wasn't the preview of getting this webinar done in the time constraints that I had to show you all the mathematical stuff. But yes, we can do flow conversions in Cipher as well. So if you have an AV sensor application where the pipe size was incorrect and you need to go back and redo the math on that, absolutely, Flowlink Cipher has the ability to take that level and velocity information, recalculate it with a different pipe size, and store that in Cipher. The nice thing about that is that's actually stored as a separate data set, so it's constantly being calculated for you on the fly. So even though I did it this week, I don't have to go back and do it, next month when it comes around again. That data set can still be there until you can get out to the field and fix your pipe size. You can also do it with flumes and weirs and whatnot. Is that all of them? I think that's all of them.
I think we hit the end. So thanks, Dennis, for a great presentation and answers. And at this point, get a hold of us, dennis.mcginnis@teledyne.com or rick.dey, DEY, @teledyne.com. And I'm going to turn it over to Sharon for the closing comments.
Well, thank you for all of the great questions today. I feel that Dennis and Rick did a great job in answering them. And if you have further questions, feel free to reach out to them directly and they would be happy to answer. I would also like to point out that we have provided QR codes to our social media and YouTube page. Please like and follow us because this will keep you in the know as far as what Teledyne ISCO is doing, any product announcements, any webinars or trade shows that we're attending. So again, I would like to thank you all for joining us, and I would like to wish you all a great day. Thank you.